You know that incredible, almost euphoric rush you get when someone texts you to cancel Friday night plans? It's that glorious realization that, hey, I don't have to put on hard pants today, and I can just stay in exactly like I originally wanted to. Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a fascinating piece of source material called The Architecture of Emotional Stability. We're basically going to dismantle the whole myth around why some of us actively choose predictability over constant, chaotic excitement. If you've ever been called a homebody, accused of being set in your ways, or felt secretly thrilled about a canceled dinner reservation, well, you're going to feel incredibly validated today.
Let's think about the modern world for a second, because there is this intense, unrelenting pressure to just always be on, right? We're constantly bombarded by this message that we need to embrace spontaneity, say yes to absolutely everything, and live outside our comfort zones. It honestly feels like a physical weight sometimes. So ask yourself, do you prefer a quiet, predictable night over a spontaneous adventure? Have you ever felt totally misunderstood just for craving a simple routine? Or, let's be real, have you ever faked a minor headache just to get out of a last-minute plan so you could sit on your couch? That guilt you feel comes from a culture that says stillness is stagnation. But as this explainer will show, the reality is way more complex. You aren't doing anything wrong. In fact, your brain might literally just be doing exactly what it was designed to do.
Moving right into Part 1, the quest for homeostasis.
Okay, let's slow down for a second and look at the actual clinical foundation here. We're looking past the social expectations and digging right into the biology of what happens when we seek out the familiar. It all boils down to emotional homeostasis. Basically, this means prioritizing consistent emotional environments to maintain psychological stability and avoid unnecessary volatility. Just like your physical body regulates its internal temperature, sweating when it's hot, shivering when it's cold, your mind is actively trying to regulate your emotional environment. The source material makes such a great point here. Avoiding drama isn't a personality flaw. It's a deep evolutionary drive. Think about how much cognitive energy it takes to navigate a sudden, loud outing. Your amygdala, your brain's threat detection center, has to work overtime scanning new faces, processing unfamiliar social cues, and evaluating risks. For a lot of people, unpredictable drama literally registers in the nervous system as a threat. So when you choose a quiet night, you're not being antisocial. You are actively choosing to avoid volatility. It's a calculated, protective measure to give your nervous system a break from constantly scanning for danger.
This leads us perfectly into Part 2, the predictability script.
Because you see, emotional homeostasis isn't just some abstract concept. It requires actual action. The researchers call this the script, the everyday boundaries people put in place to protect themselves from overwhelm. Let's look at the predictability script in action. First up, declining spontaneous plans. Look, this isn't about disliking your friends. It's strictly about energy budgeting. If you only have so much cognitive energy for the week, a sudden outing is like a massive, unbudgeted withdrawal from your mental bank account. Saying no protects your reserves. Next on the script is avoiding dramatic relationships. You know the ones, the emotional vampires, who thrive on gossip and constant crisis. Dealing with them causes actual physiological reactions, like cortisol spikes and a faster heart rate. So cutting them out, that's a literal health measure to reduce volatility. And finally, seeking structured routines. Having a set morning routine or a strict Friday night pizza tradition isn't boring at all. It's automation for your brain. When things are predictable, your brain doesn't have to burn precious energy figuring out what happens next. It's a highly curated defense mechanism against the chaos of the outside world.
Which brings us to Part 3, adaptive, not rigid.
So here is where we absolutely have to challenge the labels society loves to slap on people who follow this script. Words like inflexible, boring, or rigid get thrown around a lot. Why do we do this? Well, a lot of the modern Western world suffers from a massive extrovert bias. We historically reward the loud, the chaotic, and the highly visible. The societal myth is that being predictable means you lack imagination, or you're failing to live life fully. But the psychological reality completely flips this on its head. What society unfairly judges as rigid is actually highly adaptive and protective. Let that really sink in for a second. Adapting to a hyper-connected, relentlessly loud world doesn't always mean forcing yourself to match its frantic energy. Sometimes, the absolute smartest thing a biological organism can do is build a sturdy shelter to weather the storm. If you lived in a place with crazy volatile weather, you wouldn't call a strong, unmoving house rigid, you'd call it incredibly smart. The exact same logic applies to your psychological environment. Structuring a calm life is a sign of profound adaptation and evolutionary success, not stagnation.
And that takes us to our final section, Part 4, the ultimate reframe.
As we pull all these concepts from the source material together, we hit this incredibly powerful conclusion.
When you understand that seeking homeostasis is deeply natural and that setting firm boundaries is a brilliant way to achieve it, it changes everything about how we view the desire for a calm life. There's this quote from the text, "Seeking calm is not dullness, it is self-awareness and energy preservation." I just love that reframing so much, and it's absolutely worth lingering on. It completely elevates the choice of a quiet night in from some passive default behavior to a profound, active act of self-care. Think about it in real life. Let's say you have a super demanding job or you're deep in a tough season of parenting. Your daily cognitive load is already maxed out. When the weekend hits, choosing to stay home, read a book, and crash at 9 p.m. is tactical resource management. It means you know exactly how much battery life you have left, you clearly recognize what drains it, and you're consciously preserving your energy for the things that actually matter to you. Long-term, that specific kind of self-awareness is exactly what prevents chronic burnout and sustains your mental health over a lifetime.
So I want you to take a really close look at your own schedule, your social obligations, and your daily habits. Where do you desperately need to apply this reframe in your own life to preserve your energy? How might you embrace that deeper self-awareness, totally ditch the lingering guilt over declining those spontaneous plans, and truly honor your biological need for emotional homeostasis? Remember, protecting your peace isn't boring. It is quite literally the architecture of your emotional stability.